Another combi arrives, spewing fumes. Everyone splutters, and when the air clears again, you all gape at a young woman who is threading her way through the stalls of fruit and vegetables toward the combis. She is elegant on sky-high heels, in spite of the rubble and the cracks in the paving. She pushes out every bit of her body that can protrude. Lips, hips, breasts, and buttocks to greatest effect. Her hands end in pointed black and gold nails. She holds several carrier bags that shout neon and other boutique names in huge, jagged letters. She sways the bags languidly as she does her body. You gape as much as anyone else, recognition stirring. The young woman sachets over to a combi. Fascia, fascia. Fascia, fascia, she goes, like that, all her parts moving with the assurance of a woman who knows she is beautiful. The crowd shifts and regroups. Men inside and outside combis exhale sharply. Windows mist. You stir, too. Your breath stops in your throat as you finally identify the newcomer. It is your hostel mate, Gertrude.
Wallace drank so much coffee that the world seemed a little brighter for it, on the verge of turning convex, as if every fragment of light were reaching out for him. And then one day, Henrik gave him a piece of advice. Caffeine is a stimulant. This was mystifying to Wallace. It seemed like a fake aphorism. Henrik said it to him every time Wallace returned from the basement cafe with a cup of coffee. Whenever he and Henrik were in the elevator together, returning from a seminar at which Wallace had helped himself to one complimentary cup after another, his heart fluttered, his mouth went dry, his fingertips grew stiff and swollen. He felt as if he were being squeezed through his skin like sausage from its casing. He was startled by strange sounds in the middle of the night when he was working in the lab alone. One day, during his dissections, his hand convulsed wildly, a sudden shooting spasm, and he dropped the scalpel. It landed with a soft, sick sink into his thigh. Not terribly deep, but enough. And Wallace knew in that moment exactly what Henrik had meant.
Agnes's face was very thickly made up, and it looked to Shaggy like the paint had been layered over several other faces that she'd forgotten to take off first. The boy followed her at a discreet distance, stopping now and then to gather up things that fell from the pocket of her matted mink coat. As Agnes stoated through the infirmary's automatic doors, a concerned nurse ran over, thinking she was in need of attention. Shaggy watched the girl try to corral his mother and slip her gently into a tatty wheelchair. Agnes pushed past the nurse and went in the direction of the oncology wards. Shaggy heard the nurse say to a male attendant that she thought for sure Agnes was a working girl. "She is not," said Shaggy quite proudly. "My mother's never worked a day in her life. She's far too good looking for that."
They had seen a lot of death. They had become hardened to it. Not just the community members who had perished in grisly or mundane ways, but around them, everything died openly. Dying was as common as living. They worried about one another, of course, but when one of them ceased surviving for whatever reason, they closed ranks and put their energy into what remained alive. This was an unanticipated outcome of living in the wilderness. But it had happened quickly and cleanly. There used to be a cultural belief in an era before she was born that having close ties to nature made one a better person. And when they first arrived in the wilderness, they imagined living there might make them more sympathetic, better, more attuned people. But they came to understand there'd been a great misunderstanding about what better meant. It's possible it simply meant better at being human, and left the definition of the word human up for interpretation. It might have only meant better at surviving. Anywhere. By any means.
In the ashram, some people wept like overwrought children when they saw Baba, while others sobbed silently. There was a lady whose skin looked like milk curdling in tea, and she fell to her knees shaking as he passed by. Then she touched Ma's feet too. But most people at the ashram were dabblers. That's what Kali Mata liked to say. She turned her nose up at that type. The ones who sampled everything on the market. They were promiscuous in their beliefs, like fickle lovers. They discussed their ambivalence openly in front of Baba, wore blue jeans under their kurtas and cut off their sleeves to sun their dark shoulders. Vegetable sellers set up stalls and pawn shops proliferated just beyond the ashram gate for these occasional visitors. They sold white chemises and pants, ready-made, in different sizes and styles. And then there were those who pulled their clothes off in the meditation hall and, bare-breasted, lay on the ground, arms and legs spread, eyes rolling back, cackling. Those were the ones I will never forget. And Baba, laughing, clapping his hands.
No firing. Hold fire. What's this? Ettore looks up so fast his helmet tips backward. Who's she? The lone soldier is a delicate-featured girl in uniform, a solitary Abyssinian floating above grass, moving effortlessly between the horsemen, captivating and surreal. Fofi drops his gun and presses both hands on his helmet, pushing thick wrinkles across his forehead. Santa Maria, she's crazy. The sky has opened up above the awkward vision, and a pool of light heralds her descent. Behind her, the horsemen have backed away. They are arranged now in a straight row, splendid in their white, their rifles and spears pointed up as they stare at the young woman. The soldati hold their breath as she carves an uneasy silence into the valley. Over the hill in the next valley there is the faint rumble of a fight, of shouts, of gunfire, but in this place where the earth lies flat and grassy between two jagged peaks, there is nothing but the isolated figure slowing her steps until she is walking, bewildered, until she is standing meters in front of them, directly in front of Ettore, pointing at her chest and saying, "Boom."